Late one night, a man was walking home when a big storm came up. There was thunder, lightning, and the rain came down so heavily, he was soaked from head to foot in a matter of moments. The wind was blowing so hard the man could barely walk along. He knew he was going to have to find somewhere to sit out the storm. But the only shelter nearby was a big old house up on the hill. And when the man looked through the rain at this house, well, he thought he could remember hearing stories about it. He thought he could remember hearing that that house was haunted. Even thinking about some of the stories gave him the creeps, but you know, he was so cold and so wet, he knew he was going to have to wait there at least for some time. So he took his newspaper and he held it over his head like a hat, and he ran as fast as he could up to the doorway of the house. He shook off the water and he looked at the enormous wooden door and he thought, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll just wait here till the storm's over, I'll be on my way. He reached out and took the handle. And then he opened the door. The man stepped into the house. And as soon as he did, he heard, ew, and the door slammed shut behind him. Uh-oh, he thought, this is going to be a long night. Well, he could see in the flashes of lightning that the house inside was very dark, very large and covered with cobwebs. There was an enormous wooden beam that stretched from one side to the other, and he could see a giant black spider every now and then scurry from one side to the other. He could hear the wind howling through the gaps in the walls. The man shivered. Why is it, he said to himself, all old houses like this seem to whisper and moan? And then he realized he was talking to himself, and that was the first sign of madness, so he shut up immediately. And then he thought, well, what I need to do is I need to warm myself up and dry myself off. I need to warm myself. And then he glanced down, and in a flash of lightning, he saw that there was a pile of wood on the floor. And right next to it, there was a pile of coal. And in the middle of the room, there was a huge stone fireplace. Well, duh, he thought, I'll make a fire. So he piled the wood into the fireplace, put pieces of the coal in among the pieces of the wood. He reached into his pocket, got out his matches, opened the box, took out a match, threw it into the wood. And after a couple of moments, the wood caught light. After 5 minutes, the fire was burning. After 15 minutes, he'd got a roaring fire. He rubbed his hands together, he held out his hands, and he said, ah. Now I'm going to sit down by this fire. I'm going to read my newspaper by the firelight. I'm going to warm myself up, dry myself off in this big old whispering, moaning mansion, and as soon as the rain stopped, I'll be on my way. And so he sat down, opened up his newspaper, and started to read. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw something move. And when he glanced towards the door, he saw that a tiny, fluffy black cat had come in. And this little black cat eased its way across the floor towards the fire. Meow, 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 meow. And then the man saw the cat by the fire and thought, oh, I expect that cat's cold and wet, just like me. He probably just wants to sit down by the fire, warm himself up and dry himself off, just like me. But then the cat did something very strange. Instead of sitting down beside the fire, the cat stepped right into the middle of the flames and sat right down. Now we couldn't do that. We'd be on fire. Ah! But the little cat was doing it no trouble at all. Well, then it held up an itty-bitty paw, and it reached out and picked up a burning red-hot coal. We couldn't do that. Our hand would be on fire. Ah! But the little kitty was doing it no trouble at all. And then it did something even stranger. It stuck out its tongue. And it licked on the red-hot coal. Clearly, we couldn't do that. Our tongue would be on fire. Ah! But the little kitty, no trouble at all. Now the man's looking at the cat and he's thinking, he's got a cat at home. He's even got a little black cat at home, but he's never seen his cat sit in a fire. Never seen his cat lick on a red-hot coal. Well then, as he's watching, the cat throws down the coal, steps out of the fire, holds up its itty-bitty paws, pats out the smoke, shakes out the ashes, and goes and sits down right beside the man and stares at him. Now the man looks at the cat and he thinks, it's just a cat. There's nothing to worry about, it's just a cat. And out of the corner of his eye, he sees something else move. And when he glances towards the door, he sees that another cat's coming. Only this one's not a little fluffy cat this big. This one's the size of a hunting dog this big. And this one has a ruff of thick black fur around his head and walks across the floor towards the fire. Meow, 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 meow. And this one, just the same as the first one, steps right into the middle of the fire and sits right down, holds up a rather large paw, picks up a burning red-hot coal. Now this one doesn't lick it like the first one. This one dusts its cheeks with it like it's a powder puff. Well, the man is holding his newspaper and he's looking at the cat like this. Because he can't believe his eyes. And as he's watching, the cat throws down the coal, steps out of the fire, holds up those rather large paws, pats out the smoke, shakes out the ashes, and goes and sits down on the other side of the man and stares at him. So now he's got two cats staring at him. He's got a little fluffy one and he's got a large one, and they're both staring at him, and for the first time he begins to feel a little nervous. And his hands are shaking on his newspaper. And then he glances at the big cat and he sees something really horrible. He sees that the big cat's licking its lips. It's looking right at him and licking its lips. And then it looks over the top of his head and it says, meow. What do you think we should do with him? And the little fluffy black cat says, meow, meow. Wait till Whalum Balaam comes. Huh? Thinks the man. Who's Whalum Balaam? I don't know anyone called Whalum Balaam. Why am I waiting for him? And now his hands are shaking on the newspaper and the sweat's pouring down his face. And two cats are staring at him when he hears a noise. And he looks towards the door. Another cat's coming. Only this one's not a little fluffy cat this big. This one isn't the size of a hunting dog this big. This one's the size of a horse this big. And this cat has a mane of thick black fur around its head. And this one walks across the floor towards the fire. And then just like the first two, this one steps into the middle of the fire and sits right down. Holds up a paw the size of a plate. Picks up a burning red-hot coal. Now this one doesn't lick it like the first one. This one doesn't dust his cheeks with it like the second one. This one sticks it straight into his slanted green eye. Now the man's looking up at this cat and he thinks, oh man, that must be Whalum Balaam. Look at the size of him, he's huge. And his hands are shaking on his newspaper, the sweat's pouring down his face. He starts to say his prayers under his breath. And he sees the cat step out of the fire, throw down the coal, hold up those plate-like paws, pats out the smoke, shakes out the ashes, and goes and stands right behind the man and leans right over his head. And the man can hear the sound of that large cat, that horse-sized cat's teeth gnashing together. He feels a little drop of drool fall on his face. And that cat says, "Wow." What do you think we should do with him? And both of the other cats at the same time say, "Wow. Wait till Whalum Balaam comes." That's not Whalum Balaam. Well, that man had no idea who or what Whalum Balaam was, but he knew that he didn't want to meet him. He stood up, he ran to the door, and he said, "Mr. Katz, Mr. Katz, it's been a pleasure to meet you all, it really has, and I'd love to stay, but I can't. When Whalum Balaam comes, will you tell him I was here, and I did wait, but now I've gone. And he was out that door, down the yard, down the street, out of town. And if Whalum Balaam ever did come, you can be sure that man was not there, and was never seen in that county